Oh,
Hey, what's up, guys? Hope you're feeling alive right now. Did I steal your line, Josiah? He was
this is great.
excited. He looked like he was gonna go first. Well, I'm Micah Keneally.
And I'm Josiah Kennedy. We're your hosts. We love doing this podcast together. It's called Young Adults Today, where we talk about reaching the next generation in our world
That's right.
today. And we drop new episodes every Monday morning. We want you early on in your week to start off
Mm-hmm.
strong, to be encouraged. So thanks for joining us on the journey, but also subscribing, rating,
Mm-hmm.
and sharing this content with others. It'll help us reach more listeners with the message of Jesus and the message of young adults today. And we're joined by our friend Caleb. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you guys so much. I'm so honored to be here and just get to hang out with you guys. And yeah, I'm pumped.
We're pumped. And
Yes.
Caleb and his wife, Stephanie Rouse, they're
Mm-hmm.
both actually faith and relationship coaches for young men, for young women. And he and his wife, Stephanie, minister to many through their podcasts, their books,
Love it.
through a ton of different resources. If you guys are not following them both on Instagram
Come
and
on.
you feel like social media is a dark place and you need some encouragement in your feed, or you need some inspiration or life or hope, these two are going to help you in your faith, in your life, but also with
Mm-hmm.
relationships. So we're going to talk about just that. We
Yeah.
know that dating,
Mm-hmm.
relationships, life, love, it's important to God. It's important to us.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so I thought first off, just Caleb, if you want to share some of your journey, how you met Stephanie, and just
Wow.
why you became passionate about relationships.
Well, yeah, thank you, man. That intro, I'm pumped up right now. I'm feeling good. Thank you so much. That's man, God is doing cool things in the world. That's what I can say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Stephanie and I kind of in a lot of ways fell into this, so to speak, online through social media and all that. I was a teacher for about 10 years. I was always in the education system. Part of my story is before all that, I was an athlete and I played college basketball. Basketball was like everything, and I wanted to be a professional athlete.
Mm.
And my senior year going in, and it was going to be a big year, had some big games. Um, I hurt my back, and that was the end of it. I couldn't play anymore. I still have trouble playing sometimes, but God had that journey end, and around that same time, within that 3 to 4 day window, that was taken away. My girlfriend of about 6 years dumped me and started dating one of my best friends, or a friend, and then my grandpa died on my birthday. It was all within like 3 or 4 days. It was just like my world, boom, crashed, and it was crazy. And so I ended up doing teaching because that was the comfortable thing for me. My family were educators, and started doing that. And then along the line, God was restoring my heart,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really trying to seek Him. And I walk into church one day and I see this angel across the room. I'm a firm believer in love at first sight because, man, was I smitten when I saw Stephanie for the first time.
Yes.
I was like,
Um,
wow, who is that? And I'm also kind of, maybe it doesn't seem that way now, but I'm pretty shy at first, especially if there's interest. And so I had such a hard time talking to Stephanie for so long. And I actually like recruited one of my friends, Sarah, to like get things going to get to talk to Stephanie so I could be myself.
I love it.
Yeah.
recruited.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I actually had to wait a year because Stephanie was dating somebody at the time that I met her, and had to really wait on God during that season. And a year later, we started hanging out, and eventually I was able to ask her out. And Stephanie is one of the greatest gifts outside of Jesus that has been in
Yeah.
my life. She changed my life. God was able to use Stephanie to heal a deep wound from the loss of my career. And through, her encouraging me to just seek God in all of this, I was able to really find new passions and new things. And so, anyway, Stephanie, we both were actually teaching at the same school. She has actually a background in marriage and family therapy, a master's degree. And so that's her background. And so that's a lot of this started. We're very passionate about relationships, investing in our own relationship. And so she decided after a couple of years of teaching that she was going to venture off in the online space, and just do photography. Actually, it wasn't even like relationship stuff, and just talking about it, talking about her faith intermixed with the photography, and it just started taking off. And we were like, okay, what's this whole thing? And eventually in 2019, I was able to quit my job, and now we both work full time online through social media, blessing couples in every step of the relationship journey, whether it's like you've never dated somebody to dating, engaged, married couples. We work with married couples that have been married 1 year, or, some of our couples have been married as long as me and Stephanie have been alive. And so working with them, blessing them. And yeah, we get to do what God's crazy. God has opened so many amazing doors for us. And so we're just blessed to be able to do it together.
Wow, Caleb, I love it. Thank you for sharing your story. I just think it's important for people to understand, like, we all have a story, and God reroutes some of those chapters that we think we've landed on. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And then it's like, okay, here's a divine interruption. Wait, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So we all have those. And even as pastors, as leaders, as the listener,
Mm.
to know it's not if it's going to happen, it's when, because there's going to be some disruption, in our life along the way, whether it's big or feel small, whatever it is. But yes, we believe in marriage. We believe in singleness and taking every opportunity that God's given you in that season, as well as from marriage to kids and retirement and beyond. So Josiah and I have done a little bit of marriage mentoring as well as the actual marriage ceremonies. And there is nothing more exciting when it comes to like doing young adult ministry or reaching people who are just discovering each other for the first time, discovering those elements of marriage and uncovering those past hurts, hurdles, and hangups that are going to become an elephant in the room if they don't deal with them before they say, I do, So it's so fun to hear and see your guys' passion for what God is doing, not only in your story, but those stories around. And it sounds like your life was kind of changed around that time of being a young adult. All those things happen within 3 days. The walls come crashing down. And I would just say, Caleb, for our listeners today, they're young adult leaders, they're ministry leaders, they're pastors, they're on college campuses, they're trying to build, they're trying to strengthen, they're trying to discover, like, how do I start something, Lord? And you have an entrepreneurial spirit by the sounds of it, as well as a heart for the follower in Christ. And I feel like where our lives kind of collide is that passion for young adult ministry to help them be set up for success 30 years and beyond. And I would just be curious to see or hear, Caleb, why do you believe that young adult ministry is so vital and important in that stage of life from ages maybe 18 to 30?
Wow. Yeah. And I just dittoed everything you said. I think it's amazing that you guys have done so much just to pour into marriages, as well as like in addition to your, ministry. And like, what a way to come together, right? And to come together to do that, I think is amazing. But I think young adult, ministry is so powerful. That we think of like the transformative years being those years in like middle school to high school, and it is, but like we're in this world with like opportunity at the edge, of our fingertips and everything. And sometimes how we set our path out, it doesn't work that way, right? Like our hearts establish a way, but God determines our steps, right? And so it's so important to pour into the young adults because they are going through some of these changes. There's parts of their lives that they're going to be challenged, and things aren't going to work out the way that they thought they were going to. My life is completely different than I ever thought. I never thought that I would ever speak to anybody through a camera, much less on another side of the country or any of that, and so God can really shift what we plan into something that goes towards his glory. So really impacting those lives and encouraging them along the way, I think is so vital, because I wish I had a little bit more encouragement during those years, because I feel like I spent 8 or so years with just like no life being spoken into that, and I wish I would have had somebody to come alongside me and like, get it together, dude. Like, come on, like there's so much going for you. There's so much that God has for you, and it's not over. You're only 20 something, you're only 22. Like, your life isn't over because you hurt your back,
right?
God has so much more in store. and I might not have believed it at the time, but with encouragement, it would have really helped me get to the place I needed to be a little bit sooner.
That's so good. That's so true.
I agree 100%. And, I think of the young adult themselves, really, a majority are single. People are delaying becoming married or parents if they choose to, or if
Yeah.
God has that in their plan and in their hearts as a desire. But I think that this is really the topic for them. So many people are single and ready to mingle. And I agree from a faith standpoint, Jesus is number one. And from an intergenerational faith community, the opportunity for encouragement, for prayer, for wisdom from mentors, for reverse mentorship, for all of these possibilities, as well as for godly community. And I love that you kind of fell in love with your wife at church. We met at church. And I think that
Amazing.
church and Christian gatherings, singles ministries, young adult ministries, such a campus ministry, college years, young adult years, what a great time for us to invest in people and to encourage them, to offer them hope, to give wisdom, to reinvest maybe what's been given and deposited into us by God and godly community, to pass that along to the next generation so they can see the goodness of God in the land of the living. And
because whether or not they're like explicitly or just like verbally saying they're looking for something like that, they are, they're looking, they're desperate, because like there's so many things in this world that can get you down. It's taking people longer to get out on their own. It's taking people longer to, make their mark. And so being able to reach them and go to them, that's why I'm so passionate about what we do, is because we are literally meeting people where they're at, and that, for us is online. And so, whether that's, and then encouraging them to go to places to find community, to find people that will invest in their lives. It is vital, because whether or not people say they need it. And that would be such an encouragement I have for people like that. 100%.
So good.
Spot on. And, for the listener who's maybe single and they're ready to mingle, you know what I'm saying? Like they have that desire that maybe they're as extreme as like, I wish I was married yesterday. Or if it's just like, I just know that God maybe has more for me. And I just desire this. And I've always wanted a wife or a husband or a spouse, or just to be married, to start a family. Like, what would you say to that person in their season of waiting?
Wow. Yeah. That's such, I get, my DMs are full of that, full of, I'm lonely. I want my person, I want somebody to share this life with. What do I do in this season? And my heart just goes out, because literally it's like tens, if not hundreds of day that I get constantly, and people reaching out. And so what I would say to people like that is, number one, where are you going for your source? Like, what is your source in this season? What are you going to? Like, when that is the most important thing to you, when finding a person is the most important thing to you, even if you have a person, if that's the most important thing to you, you're going to be let down, right? That's no matter what, that is not the place to be putting your worth. And so my encouragement would be, is to make God your source, and not look at God as not being good because he's not giving you what you want now, but looking at God as good and with you now, and the good things that he can do in this season. There's that verse that like talks about, in a desert, God can make a highway, right? A highway to like what he has for you. And so I just want to tell people, don't waste the waiting. The waiting is such a powerful season that God can do so much. I wasted so many years, guys, like so many years wasted on going to things because I was hurting and wanting a person. I was going to things that I never thought I would go to. And so in that season, I wish that I had been like, okay, God, I'm going to you first, number one thing, and he's going to be my source. Where is my foundation? Because now that's just like an essential part of my life. As I've grown as a person, like I go to God first because that is my foundation. I need that because once I open my phone, once I open whatever it is, comparison kicks in, the loneliness kicks in, the lies of the enemy kick in immediately. And so what do I need first? I need to go to God first. And secondly, my thing is like, don't wait to start living your life.
Right.
You know, like, don't wait for another person to just like bring your worth and bring you happiness. Like, go live it now. Go do the things that like you would want to do with somebody else,
Mhm.
right? Because you're like, oh, I want to go and do like hiking, or I want to go do this. Like, go do that. And then when that person comes, bring them along, take them to that adventure. And so my thing is like, live the life, the abundant life God has for you is right now.
Yes.
And we have access to that right now in this time. God wants nothing more than just to be with you in this season because he loves you. And so I just think we as people, and it can be in any season, we get so focused on like the next thing that we forget how good and abundant and loving and gracious our Father is in every season and in the
Mhm.
moment. And I think there's so much power in that. And if they're looking and ready to mingle, go to the places that you would want to find that person, right? Like, if you know your girl is the girl you want is, you know, a church going girl that loves God, go to church, get involved in church, serve in church, go to places where those kind of people are hanging out. You know, you can't just like hole up in your room. And for girls, like, where are those guys at? What are those guys looking for?
Mhm.
And don't change yourself, but put yourself out there. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of people are waiting for it to like fall into their lap.
Mhm.
And there's so much they can do to take action to
Right.
go and almost capture what, you know, God has in that season. So
That's so
that would
good.
be my encouragement.
That's so good. I think many women that I've come across when I've just mentored the last 10 years is like they have this desire, they have this dream, they have this passion, and
Yeah.
it's consuming every element of who they are. And it
Yeah.
prohibits, and I look at it, does it slow the process down of you, one, becoming the person God wants you to be, but two, meeting that person? Because when, like
Yeah.
you said, like the source, like who's your source? What is your source? And the only source
Yeah.
that satisfies is Jesus himself, is God
Yeah.
himself, is you having a personal relationship with him. And when we as humans start putting a dream, a desire, whatever, on the throne of our heart, we take Christ
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Relationship, man, where is he? Where
Wow.
is he?
Yeah.
And we go back into a room just wondering, is he the one? Is she the one? Da, da, da. Like, you drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
And my prayer for any listener who maybe is in that season of like, where are they? You know, and they're frustrated. I would say two things. One, start praying that God would tame that desire and dream in your heart.
Mm,
Because if you're struggling with eyes wandering now, that's not going to change when you find that person.
mm,
So that would start praying for, Lord, tame this desire in my heart. Two, give me eyes for them alone. So Caleb, you already
amen.
alluded to it. Like when I walked into the room, boom, Stephanie caught my eye.
Yeah.
And that was my prayer for Josiah, because God had given me a vision of my future spouse, and it was
Come on.
Josiah, who I did not know. So I started
Mm,
journaling, praying, fasting, all these different things for my future spouse, living a state away, not knowing he was in
yeah.
Minnesota. And when I saw him, I shook his hand. God said, yes, like, yep, he's the one. He didn't say yes, he said,
Wow.
yep. And I remember looking at him like, you're the guy from my dream. But I did not say, oh my gosh, you're the guy from my dream. Like, never said that. I
Yeah.
took it to the Lord in prayer because he was my source.
Mm,
My heart was being tamed. And I was praying that, okay, Lord, if Josiah is the one, he needs to be in a season to see. And I want him to have eyes for me alone and vice versa. So I would just
yeah.
encourage a listener who's like, feels like they're running crazy in their mind and brain and hormones and anything and everything else that can go along with that,
Yeah.
is to recognize kind of what Caleb said. Who's my source? Am I praying,
So good.
taking my untamed heart to the Lord to be tamed,
Mm,
to reel in anything in me that should be saved for marriage for one
yeah.
person, right? And seeking that out
Yeah.
with them, for them, experience with them. And then
It's
yeah,
so
just
good.
taking that time to really just soak in the season that you're in, because
Yeah.
if God does not put dreams in our heart to tease us, he puts those dreams in our heart so we stay steadfast and focus on him. And
Yeah.
one thing, if you are married, I don't know why it came to me, but if you are married and you have been praying for that spouse and you have that spouse, have you been praying for them daily like you once did when you wanted them before you had them?
Come on. Yeah.
Because I think for me, I was praying for 3 years diligently throughout the day. But my conviction or my thought is, have I been or am I thanking God for who I have now, which is
Come
Josiah, what
on.
I've been praying for
Yeah.
each and every single day? Am I blessing him?
Yeah.
Am I cursing him? Am I encouraging him? Am I recognizing his love language? Is he running on empty? Am I running on empty? And it's just realizing like you waited 30 years to be with this somebody. Now they're here. Are you still thanking God for them and upholding them
Wow.
in prayer?
Yep.
And I think for the
Absolutely.
listener, I think that's a good challenge for me that came to my head and heart while you were talking, Caleb, is
Mm,
because we get what's next. We want the house. Let's go pray and circle the neighborhood, Josiah. We
yeah.
did, and we got the house. Now the house is here. Then it was kids, and it's like, now what is it? And it shouldn't
Yeah.
be, now what is it? It should be, wow, thank you, Lord, of what you've done. What
Yeah.
else do you have in store for us that we have not even been praying about? Or the
Yeah.
land of the forgotten of the desert, like you created a
Wow.
way when there was no way. So
Mm,
I don't want to ramble right there,
I
but that
love
just
that.
comes to mind as you're just talking, Caleb, of I don't know.
That's
How are we
that's so good.
functioning?
And yeah. Yeah, no, that's so, so good. I love that you brought that up because that just got me thinking about some more things as well of just like once you get married, in a lot of ways, that's when the battle really begins, right? Like
Yeah,
that's that part of like where God in a lot of ways uses marriage to like make us more holy, right? It
Oh yeah.
mhm,
exposes so much about us, in this intimate relationship. And so, like what you were also saying, Michael, before of just in that waiting season, are you praying for your future spouse? Are you taking care of what you need to take care of before you get married? Because
right.
anything you don't take care of is baggage you're taking into the marriage, right?
Mhm,
And that was one thing that I had so much to work on. Like my wife didn't marry a man; she married a boy, and I had to like really work on becoming a man, right? And I think that so many people are so focused on the future that they miss out on like what is that future wife? What is that future husband that I'm praying for, that I'm like asking for? What do they deserve? Who
mhm,
do they deserve me to be
right,
in this? Not necessarily of like, I need to be a different person, but what's the best version of who God calls me to be for that person?
right.
And, in marriage, again, that brings out of like, you got to start investing in your marriage right away and
Mhm,
really pouring in your marriage right away, praying for your spouse, continuing to pray for your
mhm,
spouse that they continue are refined by God and encouraging them. That's so good. I love what you said about that.
yeah.
On a similar note, I think that's something that God's just been teaching Micah and
Mhm,
teaching myself as well. And we want to be lifelong learners, right? Like
mhm,
let's
Yeah.
right.
activate a growth mindset and just turn sponge mode on. Like Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm,
wanting to absorb every drop of every ounce that you will pour out.
Yeah.
right,
And I just want to learn and I
right.
want to grow and I want God you to download and
Mm,
renew my mind. And so with that in mind, like Caleb, what would you say that God's maybe been teaching you or
Mm.
you and
that's good.
Stephanie recently?
Oh man. We've gone through a really hard year in our lives. There's been a lot of transition. There was a loss of our babies. We had a miscarriage back in April of our twin boys.
So
Oh,
sorry.
And just a and we had been praying so long for that. And you know, God has been really teaching me that He gives us enough for today. And sometimes when you're faced with difficulties and when you're faced with like what seems insurmountable in front of you, where is my person? Or for me, what is the next step in our business? Or what's the next step in this? What book am I going to write down the road or whatever it is? Are we ever going to have living children?
mhm,
And praying, and I think right now God is teaching me like to want him more than wanting whatever else that is,
mhm,
wanting his presence. And so like there's been almost like a change in my prayer life of just like instead of asking even necessarily for anything, of just asking for more of him.
Wow.
mm,
And in that I'm experiencing more of everything, and that's been such a massive change in my life, and knowing that he gives me enough for today. I don't have to worry about tomorrow because tomorrow's not promised.
mhm,
He gives me enough. He gives me enough love and hope and joy for today. And it's such a beautiful thing to live life in a sense of one day at a time,
mhm,
knowing that God is establishing my steps going forward and the dreams he's put on my heart. Like he doesn't put something on you that he doesn't plan to fulfill in his way and in his timing. And
Yeah,
so knowing that in the season is big.
that's so good.
Oh my gosh.
Caleb, thank you for going there and just being real, because I think a
Yeah.
lot of our listeners are in very similar seasons. They're in it, or they're coming out of it, or maybe they're just entering it. And it's a storm of family planning. It's the expectations that we have for God, or the dreams that we have and how we think they should be fulfilled. So I just want to say thank you for being vulnerable and being honest. And just being real with us and our listeners. So we're sorry about your twin boys, but you know what? We're gonna be praying for you, coming alongside you in the way that we can, and just to know that God can use any and all things, like our past, our hurts, our hurdles, our hangups, to encourage those around, even when it hurts like heck inside of us still. So yes, go ahead.
Amen.
Yeah, come back to something too that I think it's been a theme in our conversation of like today, right? It's like this moment, and we might be waiting on a promise that God's put in our heart. It might be waiting for that job or that marriage or the, you know, whatever's next, waiting for the future. And one thing that I think you said, Caleb, was like not to waste our wait. Don't waste our waiting. And I just want to come back to that for a second, because it's while we wait, God's working. While we work, God's working. And I love this. A college professor of mine, Jeff Grinnell, he once said like that he pictured we are on earth like almost like playing checkers, or we see a checkerboard, but there's like this heavenly dimension, and from above it's like God's actually playing chess, is kind of how you know he pictured it. I was like, a light bulb went off, like, whoa, God's doing so many things behind the scenes that we don't even see, we don't always feel, but we don't want to waste our waiting and to waste today, because today is what we have as a gift in this present moment. And one of the things that Micah did that I just think could encourage the listener, I didn't know this, by the way, till we got married, but before we were even dating, we were friends, we were growing, like God had given her that vision, and she started journaling. And on the night of our wedding, she handed me a box, and it was like her heart on pages. Some of them had like tears or mascara stains, or just like,
There you go.
And I got to like know you, Micah, so much better. From your heart on pages. And I remember we were a brand new married couple, and like Micah felt called by God to write a book, and it was going to be leather bound, and we didn't have a ton of resources, but I really wanted to support her in this dream. And so we turned to Kickstarter. Do you remember this?
How can I forget?
And so like Kickstarter, the way it worked at the time, I think it still works this way, is like you need backers, and you either it's all or nothing. Either the project's funded or it's not.
You set the goal, the amount, and the timeline.
And I think ours came down to like New Year's Eve or New Year's Day 2018. Like 2017 into 2018, and it was successful, and it launched, and it was this idea that Micah had from God of like worth the wait. And so now those journals are on our website and stuff, but I just think of that idea while you're waiting and becoming the person that God's called you to be, conforming to his image. Don't waste the wait. Like God's plan is worth the wait. And why not start a journal? Why not start praying, becoming the person, falling more in love with God, growing in community, growing in his word, journaling, fasting, all of those things. And I just want to encourage you, if you're listening and you feel like you don't have that encouragement that you need, like our prayer is that God will bring it. And that you won't waste your wait.
Or if you're fearful, I think one thing my brother-in-law taught me when I was in a season of just complete frustration when it came to singleness, not knowing where God was calling me. I feel like I was at a crossroads with life and decisions. And he looks at me and goes, Micah, fear is putting faith in the enemy. What's your faith? And it's not like you're not being faithful or you're not filled with faith. It was like, no, you're being fearful of something that God's already spoken to you. And don't sit there on the fear or the lie or the comparison or whatever you start spiraling down into, right? But it was fear is putting faith in the enemy. And I'm like, that's so good. So I tap on, hey, fear is putting faith in the enemy, but worry is wasted prayer. So if we're fearful of not finding the one, or we're worrying that we're not going to find the one, turn that fear into, you know, a mission that God has given you to live your best life as a single person. Because I love what Caleb even said. Don't stop living
Amen.
to wait for somebody, because that person, if you want to go hiking, the person that God has maybe for you might be on that hiking trail. But if you're going to sit in your room and be like, okay, Lord, just bring the person in,
Yeah.
I trust you. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get real. Like, they're not going to whimsically just come flying through your door with, wind in their hair and everything else. It's like, we need to be gritty people, and we need to be people who are taking things to prayer. So
Yeah.
let's not be fearful. Let's not be worrisome, but let's trust God. But let's
Yeah.
become the person that we need to become in the process of
Wow.
whatever season
Yeah.
we're in. Because Caleb, you already said it, and this is somebody that is in our life. And she had said, marriage will teach you how to be selfless. But if you want to become more like Christ, have children. So you may become selfless in your marriage, and then you have children, you realize still how ugly you are. You're like, wow, I'm becoming more like Christ. Like, it's a journey, and we're never going to arrive, right?
Yeah.
So we're always becoming something, and we want to become the best version of who God's designed us to be, and freely experience that. And Caleb, we've come to the 5 and 5. Are you
Okay.
for a fun challenge and a shift of our convo right here?
Let's get it.
Okay, so I added a new one on here because you guys are married, and you love marriage. So I switched it to this.
Start with
Is
that
that one fun?
Oh,
It's
good.
so fun. Okay,
Let's
Caleb,
knock it out.
this is an unexpected question that you were not expecting, and neither was I.
All good.
But here's one of 5. If Stephanie could throw away or get rid of an object that you own, what does she despise that you think she would get rid of right away?
No.
That white pair of boat shoes, that ugly park
No.
lounger.
Like, for a while, I mean, I guess this would be it, but I don't know, because she doesn't complain about the things that I have. I would say maybe my sport card collection, maybe that would be gone.
Ooh.
I don't know.
Tyler, you
There
could
was a
be sitting on
season.
a gold mine. You never know.
That's the thing. It was a season that I was building like a business on the side with all of that. So maybe that's it. I don't know. That's a good question.
That's a good question.
I hope you don't have to get rid of it, because I'm getting back into baseball cards as well.
Hey, there you go. We can talk about that.
Yeah. Oh
Let's
my
get it.
gosh.
Hey, how about this? If your phone
Oh.
didn't make a ringtone, but it made a smell tone, it could be an essential oil, but you
Okay,
like
good
your
one.
phone
Okay.
dinged, and instead of buzz and ring or a ding, it like emitted a smell. What smell would you choose?
I'd probably choose like coffee. I love like a coffee shop smell. Like in the morning when I'm making it, it smells so good. So maybe that. But then again, there might be some circumstances that you don't want coffee smell. So
That's right.
yeah, I don't know. That's a funny question. I like that one.
He thinks of bizarre things, but
I love it.
you thought that was a curveball. Here's the actual curveball. This is question number 3.
Yeah.
If you could ask Josiah and I a question, any question under the sun, what would that be today?
Wow. Shoot. What would you say has been like the biggest blessing about being married to each other?
You want to go first?
Yeah. I'm similar to you, Caleb, in that I'm married up, and I'm similar in that I believe that outside of my walk with Jesus, that Micah is a treasure. She is the greatest blessing. And I think for me, just the words that she's spoken over me are profound.
Come on.
And so, like, built into our home, we live together. We didn't live together before we got married. So like built it for me, going from single and then moving in, we get married, and it's like, whoa, I have like built-in encouragement. We have built-in deep conversations. She's like intensely curious in a great way. Like, she'll ask me great questions. And I think the other hidden blessing is Mike is like a treasure chest, in that I'm still learning so much about her. We've been married over 5 years.
Come on.
And so like, I never want to stop learning or pursuing, just understanding her and growing.
That might not ever happen. I don't know. Oh man. I would say, what's the biggest blessing? Oh man. I would say getting to do life with your best friend. And on top of that, one thing that I realized when we were engaged, we were not yet married, that I loved, was the fact that we worshiped together. We would go to church, and to have a best friend, a future spouse in that season, somebody that I'm engaged to worship alongside me in a church setting and not be ashamed of expressing their love for Christ, or keep me a secret, or act like we're not together, or any of those different things. I think that there's such a blessing to know that when you're on the battlefield of working for the Lord and building his kingdom, like, you have someone that has your back. I know God always has our back, but I would say, like, you have like your teammate who's like, I got your six. I got your six. So I just love the fact that we get to do life together. And when you do life together and when you work together, sometimes you don't realize how much you take for granted. So I'm just challenging myself of just like, what am I taking for granted? Kind of goes back to what have I been overlooking because I've been inward focused. So I think just doing life with your best friend and working with your best friend, it has its challenges of dynamics of how we lead or how we process, but we always come back down to this is the mission that God has us on. Christ is at the center of it. He's the chief cornerstone. We don't have to do life together. We choose to do life together. And when you choose each other each day, like, that's the biggest blessing. When you know, my imagination doesn't have to be concerned, or I don't have to be concerned about Josiah on so many different levels, because we're just so open and honest and upfront, and he's just living a holy life. So I think
so
that's
good.
one of the most encouraging things.
I love that, guys. I really appreciate both your answers. I can see and feel the love. And I love what you said at the end of there, Mike. And I feel like you both do this. And it's like, we choose each other, right? You guys choose each other each and every single day. And I can see the blessing that it's been on both of you, even in this talk, and just like talking with you guys this time. It's amazing. Keep at it. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Caleb.
So encouraging. And
back to question 4.
Yeah, question 4 is a fun one.
Get it.
So you guys are content creators, you are resource machines, and your website is chock full of just downloadable resources. You could, and we'll link those in the show notes, by the way, for the listener. If you are diving into just like you want a devotional, or you want to grow more in your faith and in this aspect of relationship, I think that Caleb and Stephanie can be great guides along the journey too. But Caleb, if you could offer the listener one piece of like a resource, what would you want to make available to them? Or if you could point them in one direction, like what's the place that you just want to bless them with or encourage them?
Like, are you meaning from like a resource they can go get, or like just specifically like knowledge? Like, I don't.
We'll come back to knowledge for the question, but this one's like a tangible resource that you want to put in their hands.
A couple things that we have that I think are just valuable. One of the things is I just came out with like just a very basic, Bible reading where to start course, and it's just 5 days to start a habit. And that's one of our resources. It's super inexpensive and just a resource for people to have. And the other thing is no matter where you're at in your relationship, we got something for you. And so all of our free devotionals are just go grab it, start reading, and dive in, 5 day to 1 or 2 day kind of things. And those are everywhere on our website and on our social medias.
It's amazing.
I love it. Well, we've come to 5 in 5. You're doing great so far. 5th one. Here we go. If you could leave a listener with one word of encouragement today, how would you encourage them? Whether they're single, dating, married, engaged, doesn't matter. What word do you have for them today?
My biggest encouragement is that God made you uniquely you, and God made you uniquely you for a purpose, and he made you uniquely you for his plan. And so I just want people to know that God loves them so much. And it might feel like some of the things about them aren't something that they think are a strength, but like God can use any part about you and your story. And just because you might feel like your story is not good enough, or your background is not good enough, no matter what it is, God can do anything with your life as long as you are walking in obedience and just giving it to him. And so my encouragement is like, God made you the way you are with the story and with the background that he has for you. And he has such bigger plans, and the
Hmm.
only thing that can get in the way of God's plan for your life is you. The devil can't do it. No one else can do it. You have the power to just like fully capture what God has for you. And so that would be my encouragement for somebody.
So good.
Incredible. Caleb, so grateful for you as a brother, as a friend, as just a co-laborer,
Come on.
and somebody who's passionate about relationships, believes in the next generation,
Right.
and is offering the hope and encouragement that you probably and others wish that they had in this season of life of young adulthood. And so we just want to say thanks for your time and your
Oh,
investment into
man.
this community.
I'm so honored that you guys would have me. I'm blessed by this time. I'm encouraged. I feel like I can go conquer the world right now. And you guys are such a blessing. We should do like a Zoom double date soon with my wife and you guys. That'd be great.
Yes, I actually wrote that down. I like relationship convos, and I wrote your names. That's so funny.
Let's get it.
Confirmation.
Confirmation.
Let's do it.
I love it.
Man, and if one more time, if you're listening, and you want to find out more about Caleb Rouse, his wife, Stephanie, and their resources that they have on life and devotionals and your faith and your relationships, be sure to check it out in the show notes. And until next time, this is Josiah and Micah saying talk soon. God bless.